Sunday morning when I met the Holy Ghost. Oh my.
Welcome to this edition of Let's Chat America with your radio host, the Reverend Dr. L. Ronald Durham. This weekly program opens the phone lines for you to call in live and share your questions or comments. On this program, we discuss the latest news and opinions of things that may affect the lives of those here in Daytona Beach and the nation. So join Dr. Durham for today's program.
Good afternoon, beloved, and welcome to this edition of Let's Chat America here on Joy 106.3 FM. It is a rainy day here in Daytona Beach, Florida, the city gorgeous. But the rain does not stop the show from going on. I'm so happy that you're tuning in on Facebook, and those who are listening at home, maybe you're on something in your office listening or in your car, wherever you are today. It is my pleasure to have you listening to the number one talk show in the county of Volusia. What's up? To my friend Keith, Reverend Dr. Keith Ogden is on the Facebook Live page, and we're delighted for all of you who are tuning in to the talk show today. If you want to call me, pick up the phone, dial those 10 numbers. You can join me here on the program. The number to call is 386-516-8031. That is the call-in number today, 386-516-8031. Dial those 10 numbers right now. Well, we're going to get right into the segments today. And what can we say about our illustrious, honorable Ron DeSantis? This is some foolishness right here, just foolishness. He has introduced a bill, or he wants to introduce a bill, to shield white people from feeling guilty about U.S. history. Unbelievable. There's a new bill in Florida that would ban schools, that means your children, and private businesses from making people feel discomfort or guilt over historic actions on their race, gender, or nationality. The bill is called Individual Freedom. It really should be called Jim Crow 2.0. Successfully made its way out of the Republican-controlled state Senate committee and has reached the backing, of course, of the Honorable Ron DeSantis. And they released this information on Dr. King's birthday. If you were tuned in last week, you know that my guest was Miss Nikki Fried. She is running to defeat Ron DeSantis in 2022 in November. She is running to become the next governor of the state of Florida, and she had her own comments. You have to go back and listen to the broadcast. Go to our YouTube page, Let's Chat America on YouTube, and you can replay it. But this guy, DeSantis, quoted Dr. Martin Luther King Jr.'s famous I Have a Dream speech while defending the language of this potential legislation. DeSantis said at a Stop the Woke rally, of course they want to call it Stop the Woke because they understand that being woke is what is required in these days and times in which we live, but they want to stop us being woke. So at the Stop the Woke rally, here's what he said, quote, "You think about what MLK stood for. He said he didn't want people judged on the color of their skin, but on the content of their character. You listen to some of these people nowadays, they don't talk about that," end quote. The name of Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. should never enter the mouth of Governor Ron DeSantis, introducing this foolish bill to shield white folks from feeling guilt over U.S. history. The state already has outlawed critical race theory from being taught in the public school system, with that ban taking effect last June. And under this new law, individuals would be prohibited from making people feel discomfort, guilt, anguish, or any other form of psychological distress on account of his or her race, color, sex, or national origin. Let me repeat that, because this is a quote from them. This is their quote. Individuals would be prohibited from making people feel, quote, discomfort, guilt, anguish, or any other form of psychological distress on account of his or her race, color, sex, or national origin, end quote. This is foolishness, y'all. Employers also wouldn't be able to provide any training that makes someone believe, quote, that an individual bears responsibility for or should be discriminated against or receive adverse treatment because of actions committed in the past by other members of the same race, color, sex, or national origin. So what is the Honorable Governor really saying? What the Honorable Governor is really saying is what was done to black folk in the past during slavery, we don't want to bring it up. We don't want to discuss it. Y'all make us feel bad when you do. You all are laying a guilt trip on us when you do that. And we can't stand it anymore. That's what he's really saying. Bernadette, we see you on the Facebook Live feed as well. Blessings to you, beloved. Cheryl, we see you on the Facebook Live feed. Elise, you're on Facebook Live today. I think you only have a couple of days before the big birthday. Woo! It's been all over Facebook. While the Individual Freedom Bill doesn't name critical race theory specifically, one of the main arguments people who oppose America's racist past and lasting impact being taught in schools use is that white children, quote, might feel bad, end quote, about that history. Well, it's not the aim of teaching what history was to make anybody feel bad. The aim of teaching history correctly is so that we don't repeat it. If you don't know what the history was, you will almost certainly repeat it. And so that's why it needs to be taught. That's why people need to be made aware of the atrocities that happened during those brutal years that many would really like to see come back. Florida Democratic State Senator Shervin Jones told CNN, quote, "This isn't even a ban on critical race theory. This is a ban on black history." We're only a couple of days away from February. Black History Month starts on February 1st, runs through the end of the month. Naturally, they gave us the shortest month of the year to celebrate black history. That's neither here nor there. But Jones, who is the committee's vice chair and the only black member, added, listen to what he said, quote, "They're talking about not wanting white people to feel uncomfortable. My ancestors were uncomfortable when they were stripped away from their children," end quote. Well, go ahead, Shervin Jones. That brother nailed it accurately. We were uncomfortable. We didn't have the luxury of being able to enjoy the pleasantries of sitting outdoors with a mint julep in our hands, enjoying the sunshine and basking in who we were as individuals. We didn't have that luxury. We were out in the fields. We were picking cotton. We were plowing the fields. We were building monuments to America's greatness. You know, it was African Americans that built Washington, D.C. The beauty that you see there, the streets that are interlocked and connected, those were streets that were dug by African Americans. The buildings were the foundations of those buildings, and the bricks and mortar and marble, all of those were on the backs of African Americans. And so, if your ancestors feel uncomfortable about what was done to us, well, that's just too bad. But the truth is the truth, and the truth will prevail. And the Bible says the truth shall set you free. If you just tuned in, this is Let's Chat America here on Joy 106.3 FM. I'm your host, Dr. L. Ronald Durham. If you'd like to give me a call, I'd like to get your take, your opinion on what the state of Florida now wants to do, introducing this bill that will not allow history to be taught correctly because it might hurt somebody's feelings. Give me a call, 386-516-8031. That is the live call-in number today, 386-516-8031. The line is open. You can join me on the broadcast. Cheryl, we see you on the Facebook Live feed. Deacon Gillis, we see you on the Facebook Live feed as well. All of you who are tuning in, we are so delighted to have you on the broadcast today. Paulette, we see you watching on Facebook Live. Wilbert, we see you on the Facebook Live feed. Wilbert, please tell your mother the next time you talk to her that I said hello from the city gorgeous of Daytona Beach, Florida. So yeah, they want to pass this bill not to teach real history, not to teach accurately what African Americans had to endure or suffer through because somebody may feel guilty. Somebody may feel their feelings will be hurt. It may cause psychological trauma to hear what folks did. And it was legal to do. It was legal to take us out to a tree, strap us to a tree, and beat us unmercifully. It was legal to throw a rope over a tree, then hang that rope around someone's neck and hang them from that tree. It was legal. There were no repercussions. There were no juries that were going to convict individuals for the atrocities that were hurled against us. They could lop off a foot. They could lop off your hand, cut it off. There were no repercussions for that. You were just a piece of property, just chattel, that they could do whatever they wanted to do without the fear of reprisal. Amazing. Just a couple of days from Black History. You know we're going to be talking about this through Black History Month as well. We'll be bringing these kinds of stories and information to you. But I'd love to get your take. Pick up the phone, dial those 10 numbers. Join me on the conversation, 386-516-8031, 386-516-8031. So now, if this wasn't bad enough, wanting to pass a bill that prohibits the correct teaching of historic activity in this country, if that wasn't bad enough, the Honorable DeSantis has now moved to creating a special police force. And legislators need to say no to this police force that he wants to create. And I want to share with you out of the Orlando Times. There was a great piece in the Orlando Times, an editorial written by Lewis C. Ward. Lewis C. Ward wrote this editorial just a day or two ago. And the title of the editorial is "Legislators Must Say No to Governor DeSantis's Election Integrity Unit." That's what he's calling this. He's calling it an Election Integrity Unit. What it is a special police force that he wants to create that has the power to watch over individuals when they go to the polls and cast their votes. And these special police individuals will have the power to apprehend you on whatever suspicion they may have of some irregularity in their view that you may be perpetrating in their view. They have the power, they will have the power to place you under arrest. This just harkens back to the days of Jim Crow, where individuals were killed for registering people to vote. Individuals were beaten for registering people to vote. And Lewis C. Ward wrote this editorial. I want to share this editorial with you because I thought it was fascinating. He begins by saying, on November 4, 2020, Governor Ron DeSantis touted the 2020 presidential election in Florida as the, quote, gold standard, end quote. The way Florida did it, I think, inspired confidence. I think that's how elections should be run, end quote, said Governor DeSantis at the time. Pleased Trump carried the state by more than 3 percentage points. Of course, they were elated that Trump carried the state of Florida during that election. But despite no evidence of election fraud in the 2020 presidential election and his comments concerning the way the election was conducted in his state, Governor DeSantis wants his own police agency, a special, quote, election integrity unit that will monitor elections in 2022, which he will be entering for re-election, and 2024, which he may run for president. DeSantis said in his recent State of the State address, quote, to ensure that elections are conducted in accordance with the rule of law, I propose an election integrity unit whose sole focus will be the enforcement of Florida's election laws. This will facilitate the faithful enforcement of election laws and will provide Floridians with the confidence that their vote will matter. Well, when have we not been confident that our vote mattered? Were we not confident back in 2020? Were we not confident back in 2016? Were we not confident in 2012? Why is Governor DeSantis requesting Florida legislatures to okay a $6 million police force of 52 people that will only be answerable to him and that will be able to investigate, detect, apprehend, and arrest anyone for an alleged violation of election laws? Governor DeSantis wants to be, and I talked about this last week with Nikki Fried, Governor DeSantis wants to be an authoritarian. He wants concentration of power in the state under his control. He doesn't want to be constitutionally responsible to the people. He passed anti-rioting laws and voter suppression laws, which stopped certain voting options and helped increase voter participation. DeSantis has already requested a paramilitary police force to do his bidding for his anti-rioting act. Now he wants to control and intimidate voters with his election integrity unit. Read up on history, everybody. I'm deviating from the editorial by Mr. Ward, but read up on history, because one of the things, particularly here in the South, that was done was there were individuals, white males, who would be at the places where the vote was going to be had, whatever that polling place was. They would be there. They would have on their meanest look and their meanest face and be standing there watching, particularly, of course, African Americans. They weren't watching white folk vote. They were watching black folks vote. And just their presence there kept many African Americans from even going to vote in the first place. And when you don't teach history, we will circle right back to what happened during those times. Let me get back to this editorial by Lewis C. Ward. The Special Election Integrity Unit is the first of its kind in the country, and voting rights advocates see DeSantis' move as a threat against our democracy, and they fear that Florida's Republican-controlled House will help it become law and be used to intimidate voters. Alarmed by DeSantis' request for election police, Florida congressional Democrats asked the U.S. Department of Justice to look into a, quote, a disturbing rise in partisan efforts at voter suppression, end quote. In a recent letter to Attorney General Merrick Garland, congressional Democrats wrote, quote, harmful proposals to create new partisan bodies to oversee our voting process are exactly the kind of action that demand oversight as we work to ensure that our voting process is unquestionably trustworthy, end quote. Fortunately, there aren't any legislators signing to sponsor the proposal for an election integrity unit, at least not yet. The Republican-dominated House Public Integrity and Election Committee has not scheduled a hearing on the governor's proposal for an integrity election unit yet. It is also believed that Florida supervisors of elections fear overreach from the executive branch, especially in 2022, when DeSantis is seeking re-election. State Representative Geraldine Thompson, the ranking Democrat on the House Public Integrity and Election Committee, thinks the new agency would be a waste of money. Quote, here's what she said. So to have your own election SWAT team that would be under the direction of the Secretary of State, who is under the direction of the governor, is not a comfortable feeling, end quote. That was said by Cecile Schoon, president of the League of Women Voters. She went on to say, having governmental officials like this traveling about overlooking elections just to see if there's something going on is very chilling, very scary, and very reminiscent of past governmental interference that was directed at black voters. When you don't teach history, the first segment is about DeSantis wanting to pass or passing a bill that says you can't make us feel guilty. You can't make us feel shame. We don't want you talking about what happened 60, 70, 80 years ago, 100 years ago. We don't want to hear that. We don't want to hear about the oppression that your people had to endure. We don't want to hear it. The reason they don't want to hear it is because when the truth is told, it alerts you to be able to see when something is trying to go on that brings you back out of where you came from. And we're not going back. We are not going back to those days ever again. Mr. Ward, who wrote this editorial, ends it by saying, I agree with Cecile Schoon and every Floridian who wants our democracy sustained in Florida. It's very obvious what Governor DeSantis is doing to the Sunshine State of Florida. He's pursuing a dictatorial style of leadership. Legislators must vote no on DeSantis's proposal for an election integrity unit. What do you think? What do you think about this election integrity unit? What do you think about the first segment? A bill being passed to shield white people from feeling guilt over U.S. history. Give me a call. Pick up the phone. Dial those 10 numbers, 386-516-8031. 386-516-8031. I think we have a caller. Let's try to get the caller in. Caller, welcome to Let's Chat America. You have Dr. Durham. What's your question or your comment?
Oh, hey, man, I didn't know you were going to get on. Well, I appreciate you taking my call.
Absolutely.
I'll just listen to your segment, and to be honest with you, I actually am a Republican.
Okay.
So I kind of have different viewpoints of some of the things that you're talking about, but I do agree with you as far as what happened in the past, as far as the intimidation by white folks.
Okay.
And I do agree that we don't need to have that at all.
All right. Well,
ever again in the future.
I appreciate that.
My question to you is regarding this community you're opposed to. If it was made up of a more bipartisan group or all Democrats, would you be for that?
No, I'm not for anyone standing outside of a place of voting, a polling place, watching the free and fair elections that should be taking place across this country. I'm not for anyone, Democrats, Republicans, Libertarians, Independents, I don't care who it is. That is not something that should be done. Our elections are free and fair in this country. That's the way they need to remain. There is absolutely no sustained voter fraud that is going on in the United States of America on any kind of major level. You may have one individual who will vote out of their polling place, let's say, or you may even have an individual who may perpetrate some other kind of voting infraction. These are very minor. They number in single digits in most cases. So, no, we do not need what Governor DeSantis is proposing. This is nothing more than going back to the time when intimidation was used, particularly against African Americans. We need to just say that because that's what it was. And so we don't want to go back to that. And that's exactly what this is for. This is to intimidate, to discourage people from even leaving their homes and going to the polls for fear of repercussions or arrest or whatever else may be the goal of this special unit. So, no, I don't think anybody should be doing it, Democrat, Republican, or anybody else.
No, I agree to some extent with that. I haven't heard the proposal, so I can't speak intelligently now as far as what its purpose is or what's entailed or what they're proposing they're going to be doing at these elections. So I don't want to get too far down the woods in that because I just don't know. I haven't researched it like you have.
Right. Well, I
do appreciate you taking my call, and I do agree with you on that. I don't think any folks should have anybody overlooking them when they're going to vote at the polls.
No, you're absolutely right. I mean, the most sacred responsibility that we have as Americans, at least to me, at the top of my list, one of our sacred responsibilities is that of voting in to office whoever the person is, and I don't care who you vote for. Vote for Ron DeSantis, vote for whoever you want to, but I don't think there should be individuals standing there looking over your shoulder, watching you, making you feel uncomfortable while you're doing that. I just think that's absolutely wrong. It's something that we got away from a long time ago, and it's not something that we need to go back to.
Right. I just don't, like I said, I don't know in what regards, like, how they're supposed, like, what they're going to be doing there. Are they going to be out there for the voters to see? Are they going to be behind the scenes just making sure the poll workers are doing things correctly? But, again, going down that road is kind of the road you don't want to go down, because, like, whoever's running that committee, whoever controls that committee, I wouldn't feel comfortable, like I said, because you don't know what their intentions are or what their motivations are.
Absolutely. And, you look around the world, excuse me, and you see authoritarian governments in other places who do this kind of thing on a regular basis. There's no such thing as free and fair elections in Cuba and in other countries around the world that are under the threat of oppression. There's no free and fair elections in Russia. It's a given that those individuals, Castro or Putin, will continue to rule their countries. And, Russia has this veil of what they call voting, but it is not free and fair voting. They know when they go in there, they have to vote for Putin or their lives will be at risk. And so we don't want to get to that here. And we rebelled in this country because of the fact that we had absolutely no representation when we were under the subjection of the British government. And so representation, free and fair, is what we want. It's why we rebelled in the first place and why we have the leading democracy in the world. And if this democracy crumbles, we are in deep to hootie pooties, as my wife would say. Right. So we've got.
I can understand why you might propose something like this, because you do realize there's a lot of Republicans out there that have their doubts about the integrity of the last presidential election. Yeah, you don't need to go down that road. But just know they have their doubts. Yeah. So if you're going to cater to your audience, that would be something to try to relieve their doubts a little bit. But I don't know if that's the right solution. I'm not a politician myself. I'm just a working guy, and I actually do got to get going back to work. But I appreciate you taking your phone call. Take my phone call.
You're welcome, sir. Keep listening. Let's Chat America right here. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Take care.
All right. We appreciate that gentleman calling us with his thoughts. What are your thoughts? You know mine. I just feel like we're on a slippery slope. And it's one that we have to be very vigilant. We have to keep our eyes open, because it's little things, folks. Those of you listening to my voice today, it's little things that when you're not watching, it's little things that will begin to infringe and creep in to limit your rights and limit your freedoms. And these little things, they're very subtle sometimes, and we have to watch always. We have another caller. Caller, welcome to Let's Chat America. You have Dr. Durham. What's your question or your comment?
Oh, praise the Lord. I'm enjoying this show. Thank God, always.
Thank you. I appreciate that so much. So I appreciate
that gentleman calling in too, and saying how he feel about things.
Yeah, and I appreciate it as well. We don't stop other opinions. You're entitled to it, and I just want you to see, from the perspective of reputable news outlets, what's being reported. And that's why I'm here. I am here to give you my opinion, and my opinion leans in a particular way, but it's my opinion. and others are entitled to their opinion. So we don't stop people from calling in. Now, if you get crazy, I will, cut you off and end the phone call. But no, we don't stop anybody from calling. But thank you so much. So, what do you think about this new police force that Ron DeSantis wants to put in place to watch voters when they're voting?
Voter suppression all over again. That's what DeSantis is all about. I guess he considers himself the son of Trump, as you say, number 45.
Yeah, I don't call his name. He's number 45.
Number 45.
Yeah.
And so, I'm really saddened because, I was hoping that he would be a good governor, and it's sad to say how he's stooping as low as he is because he feels like, just like Trump, like a dictator, but number 45, just think that because people have voted them in, that they can change laws and, suppress people even more. And it's really sad that he stooped that low as our governor of this state of Florida.
Yeah, it is sad, because you would hope that no matter what party they're in, whether it's Democrats or Republicans, you would hope that fairness would be exhibited to every member of society in this state, and that fairness would extend to knowing what history had done in the past, to certain groups in this country, and being wise enough to stop these kinds of subvertive laws or bills being introduced in the first place. But unfortunately, like you said, he wants to emulate number 45, and that's fine if that's who you want to be like. But that doesn't mean that it's going to be accepted. You can have any kind of a opinion that you want or a way that you want to govern, but that doesn't mean that the folk necessarily have to accept when it's wrong. Have to accept wrong legislation, out of touch governors or other elected officials. We have to be on our P's and Q's watching at all times.
Amen to that. And I think it also goes back to God and Jesus Christ again. Obviously, these men, as my mother taught me, it's a difference between right and wrong, right or wrong. And I would pray and hope that they would seek counsel from God, and they won't have a problem making the right decisions when God has put them in a position to help people, but they're trying to suppress people. So we just have to pray and continue to pray with power, and pray that people will embrace the Lord and have a new heart and a new mind.
You're absolutely right, beloved. Without God and having God in your life, you go in some dangerous directions with your thinking and your actions. So you're absolutely right. Without Him, we're in a lot of trouble. So we have to keep praying always. And the Bible says that we should watch as well as pray. So that's why I'm on this radio program, so that I can highlight and bring up those things that maybe you didn't catch or see in the news cycle, so that we can be aware of what's going on. But thank you so much for calling. Please try to enjoy the rest of this cloudy day that we have, and we hope to have you back next time with us as well.
Because this is the day that the Lord has made, and we're going to still rejoice and be glad in it. Yeah. Thank you. Love you.
All right, beloved. Love you too. Thank you. Bye-bye. All right. We thank thank the Lord for all the calls that have been coming in, you that have been...
Derrick Henry's grandfather was murdered.
Yes, and we appreciate all of you and all of your calls today. Keep calling me. That's why we're on the air, so that you can join me in conversation, and you can have your opinion on the air. The number to call is 386-516-8031. That's 386-516-8031. My lovely wife of nearly 50 years gave me an article that I'm aware of because I had been the pastor of Greater Friendship Baptist Church, where the Henry family were members, and Mayor Henry's grandfather was murdered in Centerville, Mississippi, on August the 14th, 1959. And he was working at the time, and that's why this is so important, because he was working to get people out to vote. He was getting people out to the polling places, to the voting places, and he was actually murdered for trying to get people to vote, black people to vote. And the file was just closed a few years ago. The file had been opened by the Civil Rights Division under the Emmett Till Act. The file had been opened for a long time. And I'm just going to read you a little bit about what happened. His name was Samuel O'Quinn. And as I said, he was murdered in Centerville, Mississippi on August the 14th, 1959. 58-year-old Samuel O'Quinn was killed by 2 shotgun blasts. Now, if you live here in Daytona Beach or in Volusia County, you know Mayor Derrick L. Henry. This is his grandfather that I'm talking about. 58-year-old Samuel O'Quinn was killed by 2 shotgun blasts around midnight as he entered his gated property named Whitaker Plantation on August the 14th, 1959 in Centerville, Mississippi. Samuel's daughter, Laura O'Quinn Smith, and her brother Clarence immediately rushed outside and found their father shot outside the front gate of his family's 235 acres of land. Samuel later died in the arms of his wife, Ida O'Quinn, while being driven to Field Memorial Community Hospital by Clarence. Samuel was on his way back home after picking up Ida and his 7-year-old son, Roy, from a restaurant that he owned. It was around 11 o'clock in the evening when she finished work. When Samuel reached Whitaker Plantation, he got out of the car to open their front gate and drive the car in. He was shot when he got back out of the car to shut the gate. While both Mississippi police and the FBI investigated the shooting, no suspects were ever identified in Samuel's murder. It still remains unsolved. Samuel was a graduate of Tuskegee Institute. He was a certified plumber, electrician, and carpenter. In fact, he was the only plumber in the small town of Centerville, which had a population of 1,200 people. After working as an assistant town engineer, he opened O'Quinn's Cafe with Ida in 1937. He also owned and operated 33 jukeboxes throughout southwest Mississippi. In the mid-1940s, he obtained his mortician's license and operated a funeral home. He also began investing in real estate, eventually owning most of the properties in the quarters where many of Centerville's black families lived. He bought the Whitaker Plantation on Highway 33 in the late 1940s and began farming peppers, soybeans, and cotton. On Sundays, Samuel went to various churches selling burial policies. And during these visits, he also organized benevolent associations which were established to help community members that were in need. One of Samuel's sons, Rance, explained, quote, "It was kind of a self-help group, but they later grew, and every time you organize people, others get suspicious, end quote. There are various theories as to who killed Samuel and why. One of the theories links Samuel's murder to his involvement in the NAACP. Another theory posits that he may have been murdered by someone interested in obtaining his land, as he was a prosperous and successful businessman. In 2008, the FBI began investigating Samuel's murder pursuant to the Department of Justice Cold Case Initiative under the Emmett Till Unsolved Civil Rights Crime Act. As the original FBI file was lost, the FBI sent out a press release in early 2009 so that it could gather further information about Samuel's murder. The FBI also interviewed various Centerville residents and members of Samuel's family. In May 2009, a phone interview, the name is redacted, stated that he'd been told that a black man named Willie Taplin had confessed to killing Samuel. According to, again, the name is redacted, Willie was in the hospital on his deathbed when he asked to see another person whose name is not there, two persons whose names are redacted, did not end up visiting Willie, but Willie confessed to an unidentified person that the White Citizens Council had given him a car and money to kill Samuel. The name was redacted again, eventually heard about Willie's confession, and during the FBI phone interview, name redacted again, also stated that Digger White, a county clerk, name redacted of someone else, and Clay Tucker would have further information on Samuel's murder, but did not provide any specific details. The FBI interviewed a person whose name is redacted, who stated that Samuel was killed by two black men, Frank Robinson and a man with the last name Talbin. A person whose name is redacted said that Frank was a former military marksman and that Talbin confessed to the murder before his death. Samuel was killed because white people in the community felt he was, quote, he was bringing about black awareness, end quote, in the community. It goes on. It's a pretty long article, but the reason I wanted to share that with you is we are still in a time where there are certain individuals who would like to go back to those days. They felt as though those were the good old days, in their opinion. They sing that song, "I Wish I Was in the Land of Cotton," where those things will not be forgotten. I'm kind of paraphrasing it, but it was all about Dixie, all about supremacy, all about keeping one class of individual in its place. And you dare not get out of place, because if and when you did, the repercussions would be swift, they would be brutal, and there was no laws in place with any teeth that protected you. And so we need to watch today, because there are people still singing, "I wish I was in the land of Dixie." And that has meaning to them. They want to go back. They want to go back. And we need to go forward. We need to go forward. And that gets me to my next segment, because I'm so delighted to hear that Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer is now retiring. And what this does is now clears the way, because one of the promises that President Biden made while he was campaigning was that if there was an opening on the Supreme Court, that he would nominate an African-American female, a woman, an African-American woman, to replace whoever the justice was that left. Well, we're now at that place. Stephen Breyer announced that he is going to retire on yesterday. It has always been the decision, according to Jen Psaki, the White House press secretary said, quote, "It has always been the decision of any Supreme Court justice if and when they decide to retire and how they want to announce it, and that remains the case today." Because as of this article in the Huffington Post, Supreme Court Justice Stephen Breyer had not made a formal statement, but informally it was released or let us know that he would be retiring. CNN reported that Breyer will announce his retirement today, Thursday, and will remain on the bench until he is confirmed. In fact, by the time I had gotten on the air today, Stephen Breyer was going to be with President Biden and make this statement, public statement, with President Biden alongside him. Breyer, a nominee for the former president, was nominated, rather, by former President Bill Clinton and moderate liberal judge, and he's been a moderate liberal judge on the Supreme Court since 1984. At age 83, Breyer is the oldest justice on the nation's highest court. Because of his age, liberal activists began pushing for him to retire this year so that President Biden could nominate a younger liberal justice to this lifetime position. They hope his retirement will help Democrats avoid what happened with the late Justice Ruth Bader Ginsburg. You remember Justice Ginsburg died a couple of years ago, and she declined to retire, more than a couple of years ago, pardon me. She declined to retire while Barack Obama was president, and then died in the final weeks of former President 45's term, allowing him to place the third consecutive conservative justice on the bench and reshape the politics of the Supreme Court for years and probably decades to come. Biden also has the benefit of a slim Democratic majority in the Senate, which will vote on the confirmation of any of his nominees. Senate Majority Leader Chuck Schumer from New York vowed Wednesday that Biden's nominee will, quote, receive a prompt hearing in the Senate Judiciary Committee and will be considered and confirmed by the full United States Senate with deliberate speed. And you can remember, I'll get to that in a minute. In his statement, Schumer praised Breyer for his role in landmark decisions during his quarter century on the court. Schumer said, quote, his work and his decisions as an associate justice on the biggest issues of our time, including voting rights, the environment, women's reproductive freedom, and most recently health care and the Affordable Care Act, were hugely consequential. America owes Justice Breyer an enormous debt of gratitude, end point. Recent opinions by Breyer authored include the ruling on the June Medical Services versus Russo, which struck down a Louisiana law requiring any doctor who performed abortions to have admitting privileges at a nearby hospital, and the ruling in County of Maui versus Hawaii Wildlife Fund, which affirmed the reach of the Clean Water Act. In a rare interview in 2020, Breyer told the American Bar Association he was confident in the country's ability to make progress on the issues of racism. He said, quote, we have had many ups and downs in this country. We did have slavery. We did have a civil war. We did have a legal system of segregation, but somehow we do overcome them, end quote. If Biden makes good on his promises, Breyer's replacement will be a black woman, a demographic that has never before been represented on the Supreme Court. We have a caller on the line. Caller, welcome to Let's Chat America. You have Dr. Durham. What's your question or your comment? Hello? 7233, you're on the air. Last four digits of your phone number, 7233. Can you hear me? All right, we seem to be having an issue with the phone, either the caller's phone or our system here, but I think it's the caller's phone. Call us back. Call us back. Thank you. All right, for whatever reason, we could not connect with that caller. 7233, last four digits of your phone number. Try us again. Hello, you have Dr. Durham. What's your question or your comment? We're not hearing you. For whatever reason, we are not hearing you. Why don't you try calling us back if you can? Thank you so much. There's something wrong on the caller's phone. Maybe it's on mute and they don't realize it, but we're not hearing them in the call. But if Biden makes good, the replacement will be a black woman, as I said, a demographic that has never before been represented on the Supreme Court. And if confirmed, she will be the only the sixth woman and third black justice to serve in this position. Let's try to get this call in. They're persistent. Hello, you have Dr. Durham. You're live on the radio.
Doc.
Hello.
Can you hear me now?
I hear you now. I don't know what was wrong with the phone.
I have so much going on here. I usually have 3 radios going on because a lot of times I have problems trying to get through to you.
Uh-huh.
And so I cut one of them off.
Okay. Well,
it was stopped on my end.
Well, you made it.
What I wanted to tell you was they just spoken to the news stations a few minutes ago and announced Judge Breyer's retirement. So it's formal now.
It's formal now. All right, because, it wasn't, by the time I got on the air, they still had not formally announced it.
Just formally did it.
Great.
And they said that one of the leading candidates is the young lady that used to be his a clerk. I guess that's the name for it.
Yes.
That used to work for him, and she's one of the leading candidates. They have a list of names, but she's one of the leading candidates.
Yes, and I'm so happy that Biden appears to be on the move to do this. Judge Ketanji Brown Jackson is her name.
That's right.
Ketanji Brown Jackson. She's a federal district judge in Washington, and
right.
Biden put her in that position as a federal district judge. Now it looks like she's the leading candidate to move up to the Supreme Court. That will be historic for the first black woman.
That will be.
Yeah.
And I wanted to tell you something else in reference to what you were saying with the other young lady that called is we have to watch, pray, and vote.
Yes.
You have to get out and register, and if you know someone, like my daughter and I do, that is not registered, get them registered, help them vote, go help them, and take them to the polls.
Take them, that's right.
Make sure they vote.
Put them in the car and take them to the polls. Yep.
Take them to the polls. That's right.
That is
absolutely right. I just wanted to say that.
Well, thank you so much, Ms. Counts. We love you and continue to be supportive of us as we're supportive of you, and love you so much. And please tell your daughter we said hi as well.
I will, and always, and of course we came to know you through my husband, who always loved you, and your wife Mo, and it's such a pleasure knowing you, and I will always be with you and your friend and supporter.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I appreciate that. Because if I need somebody to get somebody, I'm going to call you.
You call me.
That's right.
The little pit bull. Call me, the little pit bull.
Yeah. That's right. That's right. Well, thank you so much, dear, and enjoy the rest of this day. Try to stay out of this cloudy weather.
I am. I'm trying so I can stay healthy, so I can be of help.
Yeah. Well, thank you so much.
And okay, take care. Squeeze more for me.
I will do that. Thank you so much.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, we are at 59 minutes past the hour. I have less than 10 seconds to wind up this broadcast today. Thank you to all of you who stayed with me on Facebook. We appreciate all of you so much. Lord willing, next Thursday, 12 noon, number one talk show will be right back here on Joy 106.3 FM, and that talk show is Let's Chat America. Love you guys. We'll see you next time. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening, and we hope you have enjoyed today's program here on Let's Chat America, broadcast from the world's most famous beach. To request Dr. Durham to speak at your event, please call 386-451-5114. Again, that's 386-451-5114. Tune in next Thursday, 12 noon, for another powerful program hour here on Joy 106.3 FM.
WAIGLP, Daytona Beach, Joy 106.3.
Dollar Trend Incorporated, located 1230